Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it's a tremendous honor to be here in Finland, and to be here in Kvartani makes it more special. And then, of course, to be amongst so many great coaches and so many great athletes. You know, just sitting here, Thomas, Haru, Michaela, Tapio is here, Sinikiki, Thomas Lauksan, and Tero Pitkamaki. There's just so many great throwers. Maria Andrzejczyk's coach from Poland, who did so well this year, throwing 67 meters at the Olympics. And my brother, Kari Ialainen. Oli-Pekka, thank you so much, and of course Petri Pirun. Thank you very much for the invite to be here. It's a tremendous honor to be here and to share with you some ideas. We're going to talk a little bit about Sunette Viljoen, but I'm going to differ a little bit to show you some things we used, some suggestions which you might find helpful for you during training and in your preparation of your athletes. We've been together already since 2002. I saw Sunette the first time at a little small school contest, and I saw that little girl. She had some potential, but the technique was really disastrous. And I met her and her coach, and I invited them to come and train in Potchefstroom. They did so, and then later she started studying at university, completed the studies, and we are still a team together. This was taken in London. Okay, that was smiling after qualification, because we've never had a javelin thrower in qualification in South African history to qualify for the finals. And in the finals, of course, we know she came fourth. That's the worst position for anyone to end, is fourth, because the only persons that remember you when you come fourth is your wife and your dog. Sunette, if we just look, some of the qualities that make her a good thrower, and I think two of the most important ones are she can run well, she has explosive power, she has a great, excellent throwing arm, and she has a lot of sisu, a lot of guts. And she showed that during her career, overcoming many problems in her life, and to continue throwing. It was her ideal or her goal to participate at the Olympic Games. And she had the first opportunity in 2004. She came 35th, not a good result. 4 years later in Beijing, she came 32nd. A little bit better, but still bad result, because she did not make the final. In 2012, she was fourth. She continued training, and in 2016, she finally reached her goal of winning an Olympic medal. Sunette has won a lot of titles, a lot of competitions in her life. She was 11 times South African champion. She was the African champion for many times. Twice the Commonwealth champion. Commonwealth Games also every 4 years. And she has a Commonwealth silver medal. The last Commonwealth Championships, I think one of our biggest worries was Kelsey Lee Roberts, because Kelsey is a very talented athlete, and we were really worried about her. And coming into this year's competition, Maria Andrzejczyk. Maria was, I think I met her the first time many years ago. I still remember, like many years ago. And I saw this young girl, and she was sitting and watching Sunette throwing, and she really developed into a fantastic thrower. And I think she's going to still explode onto the scene very soon. So she's won most of the titles. She's still a personal best is 69.35, which is still the 6th longest throw with a new model javelin. If you look at some of her statistics, she's actually a very small thrower. As it's just some of her test results. We have many, but just to show you that it's nothing exceptional. There's nothing really, if you look at that, it's pretty average. But still, she achieved some great results. I was also fortunate to have coached Marius Corbett. If you think way back in 1997, He was completely the opposite. He was a very big thrower. He won the World Junior Championships in 1994, throwing 77.98 meters. But he had a lot of instability problems. It runs in the family. And we spent 2 years correcting that. For 2 years, he could not participate in any competition. He could not even throw the javelin. And then in 1997, we started throwing with the javelin again. Actually, the previous year, I took him to Tata in Hungary. I see there's some Hungarian friends here. Tata, the Olympic Training Center there, is a fantastic place. We were training there and with a masters competition. And Marius was also participating. He threw 74 meters at that meet. And he stayed motivated. 1997, national championships, throwing 78 meters only. A few weeks later, throwing in Stellenbosch, first time over 80 meters. Jan Zalesny was competing in that same meet. And Jan had 5 throws over 90 meters in that same competition, which I still think is perhaps Jan Zalesny's best competition ever. 5 throws over 90 meters in one competition. And Marius was over 80 meters for the first time. And he made the suggestion to Marius to say, Marius, please make your run up a little bit faster. You need to run faster. And Marius did that, and he threw 83 meters. And then going into the World Championships, first throw was 76 meters, and the next throw was a new national record, 88 meters 40. And he won the World Championships with that throw. And 1 year later, again, bettered the South African record, 88.75 at the Commonwealth Games. So Marius is a very different thrower. He's 1 meter 96 tall, and he was, most of the time, his body weight was between 118 and 125 kilograms. So he was a big boy. He was a big boy. But still, with that frame, he could move, he could run well. Some of the tests, you will see it's, Some of the tests, for example, the overhead forward throw with 4 kilo, it's only 17 meters, which was it's not very good. And that's one of the most important exercises for the javelin throw, is the overhead forward throw. This year we also had success with our 2 young athletes in my training group, Johan Grobler, at the Junior Championships in this year. He threw 80.59 meters, which for the junior is pretty good. He's a very small boy, but very fast and very explosive, and he runs very well. Johanne van Dijk, also, she was beaten by Klaudia Moroszewska. The Polish athletes are coming stronger and stronger every year. And Johanne also had a personal best. Personal best this year of 57.32 meters. And she also came second at the African Senior Championships, where Sunette threw 64 meters. And she is perhaps also a prospect for the future. All these athletes, Marius, Sunette, Johan, and Johanne van Dijk, what do they have in common? I think everyone knows you have to work with talent. You need talent. All of them, I think they've got a good throwing arm. They've got a multi-sport background. I think that's important for development. Not to specialize too early, but to encourage your younger athletes to have a multi-sport background. Sunette was a cricket player. She can play any ball sport she can do. And the same with all of these athletes. And South Africans love sport. We love to move. So we do a lot of variety of sporting codes. And if you look at athletes like Christina Obergvol comes from a multi-event background. She did heptathlon. Barbara Sputakova was a heptathlete before she moved onto the javelin throw. They have good coordination. They've got good legs. They've got excellent training capacity. They are hard workers. They have a positive attitude. And they have sisu. Sisu is, the Finns call it sisu, it's guts. It's something which they feel they as a nation, when it rains, they can throw well. When it's not good conditions, the Finns can do well. And that we've seen. And if you participate against a Finn, I saw that the first time in 1998. When Marius was throwing against Aki Parvianen and Seppo Razu and Kimmo Kinnunen and Juha Laukkanen, all those throwers. When you go into competition with the Finns, you know you are in a battle. And that's very nice. That's something they have, and something that I try to teach my athletes is to have sisu, guts. Oh, sorry, I forgot the last one. That's perhaps the most important one. And that is we must prepare our athletes to be able to deliver on the day of the most important competition. It might be at national championships, it might be at junior world championships, it might be the Olympic Games or whatever. If they are not able to deliver on the day, what are we preparing our athletes for? Mike has touched this just now, and I think that is still the thing we need to remember. When we throw the javelin, the most important principle or parameter that determines your throwing distance is the release velocity. Typical values for men is like 26, maybe even higher, 27, 28 to 31 meters per second. And for women, of course, it's got to be a little bit less. Top thrower, 26, 27 meters per second. And that is the one we can change in training. The athlete, just by improving just getting a small improvement in release velocity, can make a huge difference in throwing distance. So, in the javelin throw, we know we need explosive power because we need to maximally recruit fast twitch muscle fibers. And we need to develop the ability to generate force very, very quickly. Forces need to be generated very, very quickly, and we need to accelerate the javelin with great speed or great velocity. So that's crucial. Power is a measure of the rate at which energy is being transferred. And that is determined by two things: the amount of force that you apply to the javelin and the speed at which you apply those forces. So the amount of force and the speed of force is crucial. Newton's second law says that force, acceleration is proportional to the force causing the acceleration. And that takes place in the direction of the applied force. So bigger forces, if you can apply bigger forces to the javelin, it will mean bigger acceleration. If you have a longer throwing arm, like Mike just now correctly said, if you have a longer throwing arm, you can have a longer path on which to accelerate the javelin. That was an excellent photo of Tero Järvenpää, who was, I think, he was one of the unluckiest throwers at the Beijing Olympics. Remember, Michaela? He had a long throw, I think perhaps maybe the silver medal, but unfortunately overstepped, and he did not medal. So I get this goosebumps when so I had to use that slide specifically of Tero Järvenpää. But that creates a little problem for us, especially when we do strength training, weight training, because it takes. If I do this once more, please. Not just, thank you, Michaela. This is a problem. It takes time to develop maximum force. But the javelin, and Mike also just now showed that, crucially, the time in which you can apply force, in which you can accelerate the javelin, is very, very quickly. It's a minimum duration. So if we look at that, for example, in the javelin, and that might even be quicker, that is much quicker, you will see you are not able to use your maximum strength. All the amount of strength that you've gained in the weight room, you might not be able to apply that in the javelin throw itself. That's why it's so important to rely on rate of force development training, speed training. Now I can... Which one we can? Oh, that's good. Kiitos.
Coached by Jan Zalesny, the world record holder on the men's javelin, and she gets out there very far. She already had the world lead, but she gets out to 225 feet 5 inches on the very first throw. But then in the 5th round from South Africa, it was Viljoen of South Africa who bests that throw, and a new African record as well as a meet record and a world leader up to 227 feet 6 inches, Sunette Viljoen. And then Barbara Spatakova on the 6th and final round, one chance to catch her, showing that she is in good shape, has changed which finger she puts behind the grip, and it has really given her some more consistency in a very inconsistent event. So 227.6, 225.6 for Spatakova. She improves her second place, but this woman, a new African continent record, and she put herself into the mix for London. She was the silver medalist at the World Championships last year.
Okay, technically, it was not a very good throw, even from that angle. But what is apparent, two things. One is the dynamic leg work, very active with the legs, and then the great throwing arm. She has a great feel for the javelin, a great feel for the throw. Just the next one, please. The next slide was taken in Potchefstroom this year. I think, Kari, you were there. I think you were there. Kari was there. Kari was there. Some of the Norwegians were there. This was maybe just another one, please. This was a training throw of 17 meters. Short approach. Therefore, my opinion, if we do strength training, I think we just need to change the concept of thinking. My idea is that we should think speed strength and not strength speed. So the emphasis is more on speed than on strength. You need to be strong, sure, but the emphasis should be on speed. Remember, and that's what we talk about, the throws. A lot of throws coaches just to think of throws in general. It is different from the discus, the shot put, and the hammer. The javelin for women weighs only 600 grams, and for men it's 800 grams. So the implement is still very, very light. Strength, power, technique, all those biomotor abilities need to be developed in harmony. And a lot of coaches, we found, what they do is they develop strength and power, but the technique does not develop in harmony. They've got to develop together. Otherwise, you will not have a good result. We have indulged in a lot of plyometric training, plyometric work, not only plyometrics for the lower body, but also plyometric work for the upper body. Now, plyometric work is important because we want to increase the rate of force production. We want to generate forces quicker. That's the essence of throwing. We need to generate the greatest possible force in the shortest possible period of time. We need to increase the potential of the stretch shortening cycle. If we pre-stretch a muscle, if a muscle is stretched eccentrically and if it is stretched fast, in a fast manner, it increases the potential for the following concentric muscular action. That we said we need to develop forces very quickly. We want to activate as much as possible fast twitch muscle fibers. And of course we want to improve the body's ability to store and to use elastic energy. It is there for us to use. This is two examples we use, and we use a lot of, and Sunette loves the Olympic lifting. She loves Olympic lifting a lot, so we use a lot of variations of the Olympic lifts. And I think tomorrow Thomas Fehr will show us many, many examples of Olympic lifting and how the different variations are being applied in training. This was Justine Robertson. She was a 63-49 meter thrower. She was, for a long period of time, she was Sunette's training partner. Small thrower. She was the world junior champion in heptathlon many years ago. Then she injured her back in high jump, and she wanted to quit competition, so we talked to her and please become a javelin thrower. So she started javelin. We started teaching her again because she had a terrible technique. So we taught her from the start, right from the start, new technique, and then she went on to throw 63-49 meters. This is her just doing some snatch from the blocks. And this was another training partner of Sunette, Marna Dippenaar. She started off, she was actually playing hockey next to us when we were training, and I saw this girl, you could hear her, she's enjoying, she's laughing, and after training she walked past our javelin throwers, and I said to her, hey, you should come to the javelin throw, we need happy people. And the next day she turned up for training. I thought, oh damn, what do we do now? And the first year she threw 34 meters, and 2 years later she won her national student title with 52 meters. And she also enjoyed the Olympic lifting, and this is just a girl that's never lifted. And just to show you that it's not bad for a young girl. So we use a lot of Olympic weightlifting movements. Why? First of all, it allows for three-dimensional movement. Forwards, backwards, sideways, up, up, down, and up. Core strength development. The Olympic lifts are fantastic to develop the core. Full range, multiple joint movement. All the joints are moving. Maximum recruitment of fast twitch muscle fibers. Two important components of explosive strength. Starting strength and acceleration strength. Think of the javelin. Javelin's already moving, but you need to apply force and you need to accelerate that javelin in a very short space of time. So it is also high velocity training. And when you do weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, technique training, plyometric training, you are training the nervous system. That's why if you do that type of training, you need to be fresh and you need to be well rested. And of course, technique, irrespective of what you do. If you throw a medicine ball, if you do weight training exercises, if we do gymnastic exercises, we did the other evening a fantastic session with Miko and Sami. Where is Sami? There at the back, Sami Saxio. Sami, that was brilliant to do that session with you guys, to see the great technique in the gymnastics. Core strength and stability, important. What is the core? The core is this area. Normally people would say the core is only the three muscles, the transverse abdominis, the internal oblique, and the multifidi muscle which runs along the back, but it's more than that. It's the whole pelvic hip complex. 29 muscles attached in this area, including what Mike also said, so important, the gluteus muscle. The gluteus muscle, which is important for hip extension. It's a crucial muscle. So we need to have the core strong. It's no use if your upper body is strong, your lower body is strong, but if your core is weak. If your core is weak, the whole throwing movement will be weak. And the golden rule is, that's how I believe it, the more advanced the athlete, the thrower, the stronger the core has got to be. And I was impressed the other evening to see a lot of the Finnish junior athletes, how strong they are already at a young age in their core. I think they are way ahead of some of the other countries, including South Africa. So we will improve that and we will correct that. This is an excellent example of Tero Pitkämäki. I know Thomas Ruller is also doing a lot of core work. We've seen some footage, and so he's very, very impressive with his training and his core work. Andreas Thorkildsen, he was working with the gymnastics coach. We were able to work with them as well for 1 or 2 years with the coaches. Incredible core development, and that is the way to go. The better thrower you are, the stronger your core has to be. And the same with Sunette. Sunette has improved her core over the years a lot. And that brings us to specificity of training. And this is once again a very debatable point, and a lot of people, we can discuss for 2 hours, we can just talk about specificity of training. The human body, sorry, I said I will not do that, and did that again. Back. There you go. The human body has the ability to adapt to whatever training load you give it. But the important thing to remember is the training demands must meet the performance demands. If the training demands does not meet the performance demands, functional adaptation will not take place. We will find a lot of coaches, we did that many years ago too. We did a lot of general stuff, but that does not relate to the javelin throw. So if we increase the volume of exercises for our top athletes, and including Sunette over the years, we still do a lot of general stuff, but a lot of general exercises, but we have increased the amount of specific work, which is javelin related. Because that's what we are going to do. You need to throw the javelin. You want to throw the javelin far. That's why you have to do exercises which are similar to the javelin throw. Professor Mel Siff and Professor Yuri Verkhoshansky, I was fortunate to have met him the 1 year, and he started that system of shock training. And they said that it is not only the exercise, which makes the changes in the body, but it's the manner in which you execute those exercises. And that is crucial. So if you look at specificity, specificity can be applied in many, many ways, taking into account the following. The type of muscle contraction. Is it concentric? Do we get some eccentric work? We need to analyze that. I think Mike has addressed that beautifully. To show the message is we need to strengthen the body, concentric, and we got to do a lot of eccentric work. If we don't do the eccentric work, we will have, we will occur many injuries. We cannot hold the block. The left side will collapse. The hip stabilizers have got to be strong. The gluteus has got to be strong. So a lot of eccentric work. If you plant, boom, going into the ground, 8 to 10 times your own body weight goes into the ground. There's a tremendous force, a tremendous eccentric load on your quadriceps muscles. So if you're not properly prepared, you're going to get that, or you're going to get injured. So we need to prepare our athletes concentrically and eccentrically. And go and look through the different phases of the throw, and you will see where you need to address those areas. Movement pattern. The movement pattern, and I saw this with Jan Zelezny. Jan Zelezny has been in Potchefstroom every year since 1997. Okay, he continued as a coach now. But one thing we saw with Jan, if Jan was throwing with iron balls or throwing with pipes or with a medicine ball or with a javelin, the technique was always the same. That's why we should be so wary when we use implements like throwing with heavier shots. When I grew up, we grew up in the years of apartheid. We did not have access to coaches. I had no coaching material. No coaching, no videos, no books. I went to the library as a young kid at school, paging through books, looking for pictures of javelin throw, because I loved the javelin throw. And I found one book of Janus Lucis. There was a great picture of Janus Lucis. And I thought, hey, I'd like this Janus Lucis guy. And every time I tell my parents I'm going to the library, but I'm going not to study, but I go to the city library to check if that book is still there. So I get the book from Janus Lucis. And then eventually one day I did the bad thing. I tore the picture out and I took the picture from. So I still have that picture of Janus Lucis, the one I stole from the library as a young kid. And that was my experience. And only later did we realize what it was. And then we heard Janus Lucis was throwing with shots, and he could throw 4-kilo shots and 5-kilo shots, and that. I thought, wow, that's awesome. We must also throw 4-kilo shots. And so we were, of course, throwing heavier shots. We were bad technique. And I asked Janus Lucis when I met him later in my life, Janus, did you throw 4-kilo shots? I never threw 4-kilo shots. So it's be aware of what you hear. Check the facts. So when you throw with heavier shots, and that's important because you need to strengthen the body. It's important for functional strength. We throw pipes, we throw medicine balls, we throw weighted shots. But when you do that, make sure that the technique remains exactly the same. If you change the movement pattern, you've got a problem. If you are doing sprinting work, running with sledges, don't change the running motion. The running motion has got to be exactly the same. Region of movement, I'm just going through a couple. It just means that if you are strong in this angle, it does not mean you are strong in that angle. A velocity of movement, this is quite important. To make an exercise 100% specific, we need to throw at the same velocity as the javelin. The release has got to be, if we talk about men, 27, 28, 29, 30 meters per second. It's got to be fast. So we got to do, but you cannot always do high velocity training. Okay, high velocity training is very taxing to the nervous system, and it also might lead to injury. So training at lower velocities is better for muscle adaptation. Okay, whereas if you train at higher velocity, it's more important for the nervous system. Force of contraction, muscle fiber recruitment, it's important in our training. Metabolism is very, very specific. Biochemical adaptation, and of course flexibility. We need to look at flexibility, especially older athletes. I found with Sunette over the years have become a little bit stiff in the hip girdle. So the hips are not that flexible as 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So we need to address that problem. And some athletes, if they are flexible in the shoulder girdle, does not mean they are flexible in the hamstrings. So we need to look at those areas, which is the important areas for the javelin throw. If we look at this interesting graph, and that's the thing I try to use with my athletes over the year. That's the force velocity curves. It shows for concentric action, it shows that force decreases with an increase in velocity. Okay, so what do we want to do in training if we want to increase our explosive strength? We want to increase our power. Okay, we can become stronger, we can become faster, or we can become stronger and faster. And that is my idea. So we will try and push this part more towards this direction by becoming stronger and faster. And if you look at this graph, you will see how important speed is. But for eccentric muscle contraction, the opposite is true. It shows that eccentric strength increases with an increase in speed. So if I stretch a muscle rapidly, a quick stretch on the muscle, the potential for greater force production is there because you are storing, the muscles and tendons are able to store elastic energy. If the switch, the change from eccentric to concentric, if that change is quick, then I can utilize that elastic energy in the throw. Same, for example, if I get the lower body moving ahead of the upper body, the right hip, in my case, the left hip moves ahead of the left shoulder. If I get that, the chest muscles are pre-stretched. Then you get that wave-like action. Then you get the pre-stretch action. Okay, so it's important eccentric training and concentric training. The modern coach, and that's all of us. I say all of us. We are the modern coach. We have to learn faster than the opposition. You agree? You agree? That's what we want to do. You want to be better. You want to always want to improve your athletes. We have access to knowledge. Today, I think there's just too much knowledge. It's sometimes scary. I feel life is too short to learn. I'm learning every day. I've learned here, just in this 2-3 days already here, just by talking to Jason, talking to John, talking to Heiko, talking to everyone. We are exchanging ideas, speaking to Kari and Petri and all those great coaches, and we are learning. So the opportunities are there. But we have to be aware of the danger of paradigm paralysis. Some coaches still believe I have the recipe for success. I do not have the recipe for success. We have to find that with each and every athlete. I can do the same exercise I can give to Thomas. I can give the same exercise to John. I can give the same exercise to Sunette maybe. And they will all three respond differently to that same training stimulus. So each one of you are unique as a coach or as an athlete. Isn't that remarkable? Fantastic to know. You have one fingerprint. It's yours only. Only you in the world. That makes you so unique, so fantastic. We still find in our country still a lot of coaches that say, my way is the only way. You can do it my way. If you don't do it my way, get lost. Okay, that is maybe the wrong approach. Also listen to other coaches, listen to athletes. This is how I coached 20 years ago, and I will still do the same things. Remember, and this is the golden rule. We cannot do the same things over and over and expect different results. We cannot do the same things over and over and expect different results. Let's just have a look at the paradigm effect. Now you have to concentrate, please. I want you to, but you have to work together for this. Is this okay? Agreement? Okay? I will give you will watch, and you're going to do a little calculation. And then as soon as the calculation is done, I want you to give me the answer loud. You have to say the answer immediately. Okay? Okay, let's try. Agreed? Okay. Ready? And go. Right. Oh, sorry. The correct answer is 4,100. If you look at it, it's 1,000 plus 40. 40, 30, 20, 10. It makes 100 on this side and the thousands we count on that side. So it's just the way you think. We need to change. The world is constantly changing. If we do this exercise, we need to think about ourselves. The world is designed to change. The world is designed to grow. We need to adopt new paradigms. We have to widen our vision. Once again, I'm going to widen my vision just by listening to all the speakers here. And Mike, what he did just now was fantastic. The other evening doing the gymnastics things with Petri. With Sami, and Petri, you were also there, and Kari. And speaking to Kari, and speaking to all the other coaches, we widen our vision. We learn to look at coaching with new eyes. Because we cannot do the same things over and over and expect different results. This is quite true. Arie de Geus said, the only sustainable advantage you have, and I have, is the ability to learn faster than the opposition. That's the only sustainable advantage you have. Learn faster than the opposition. What is success? What is success? If I ask Thomas, that would be unfair to say what is to win Olympic gold medal. That is, I felt like crying. I was sitting in the stadium and Haru, it was just amazing winning the gold medal and they are celebrating. That is success. But success means to every coach, to every athlete, you have different meanings. Now if we look at this, and you might agree with this saying, it says success is the progressive realization of a goal. What is a goal? A goal is something that you are trying to achieve. A goal is a dream, but with a deadline. A dream with a deadline. Progressive, the word progressive means that it is a journey. Success is a journey and not a destination. Which means that as a coach or as an athlete, you have never arrived. You have never arrived. Remember, today's excellence, what you have achieved today, what you have to achieve this year, is not tomorrow's excellence. That's why we have to strive in our training, in our coaching, strive towards excellence and not perfection. Why not? Why not perfection? Because there's nothing in the world that cannot be done better. We saw that the 400-meter world record from Michael Johnson. Everyone said that record will stand forever. And we got this one guy from South Africa, Wade van Niekerk. He just comes and just obliterated the world record. It shows you that there's nothing in the world that cannot be done better. In the javelin throw, world record 98.48 meters. It seems a long way. A lot of people say, oh, that record will stand forever. But I'm telling you, do not say that. Because Thomas Roller is improving. Tero Pitkamaki will be back. Antti Ruskanen is improving. So there's a lot of throwers on the world circuit that's throwing well and that's getting better. The Germans are fantastic with Thomas and Johannes Vetter and Julian Weber, and there's a host. They have so many throwers. They're in the Finns. It's actually, we must get them to South Africa. There's three kinds of coaches. Three kinds of coaches. Coaches who make things happen, and we hope that's you, because you are going to go back and you have to change things. There's coaches who watch things happen, and there's the coaches who wonder what happened. Okay, you must decide what kind of coach are you. One thing that we've learned with Sunette, and working with Sunette and what she did is, over the years, she's become mentally stronger. And that's a thing we maybe in the past neglected. And that was a thing with South African sport. The mental aspect was always put on the side. And mental training is so important for top-level performance. Even the young kids, if we teach them to concentrate in training, they will be able to concentrate in competition. If they cannot concentrate in training, how can they concentrate in competition? It's not possible. So those are skills that we have to learn. And we've employed a sports psychologist to help us with that. Jesse Owens, who won 4 Olympic medals, Olympic golds at the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin. He said that the battles that count aren't the ones for gold medals. The struggles within yourself, those invisible battles inside of all of us, that's where it's at. Now, somewhere along the line, all javelin throwers, and there's a lot of throwers, and David, you can maybe also reflect on that, and you will agree with that, Kelsey and Thomas, and to say, Michaela, somewhere along the line, each of these athletes needed to face, and they had to conquer their inner fears, their own self-doubt. Because we all have those inner fears. And that's the essence of mental toughness. Champions like Thomas and Kelsey and Michaela and David and Sunette and John. Champion athletes know that the battle is not just against the tape measure or against an opponent, but more importantly, those battles within yourself, those invisible, those inner mountains, and those battles are fought with weapons of the heart. Looking at Sunette in 2012, I will get to that. First of all, the top athletes in competition. And I was watching, I always go and I sit in competition. When I finished competing, I was watching Haru and I was watching Thomas. I was watching intensely the communication and seeing. And what they did is they were able to maintain concentration. A lot of athletes lose their concentration during competition. At Olympic level, World Championship level, you cannot do that. He had the ability to stay focused. He was focused for 6 throws. He knew exactly what he had to go and do. He took control of his mind. Real champions enjoy the moment. He was enjoying the moment. Sure, you are stressed and you are a little bit worried, but did you enjoy the moment? He enjoyed it, yes. They enjoy. Real champions thrive on pressure. You can check those real champions. They enjoy it. It's actually irritating to see how they enjoy it. We have to learn to control your emotions and your attitude. The way in which you think affects your performance. If your thoughts are negative, your performances will be negative. If you think that you will fail, you will fail. If you think you will be successful, you will. Do not underestimate the power of your thoughts and your imagination. It does not matter what anyone thinks about you. What matters is what you think about yourself as an athlete or as a coach. Learn to balance the yin and the yang. I could see that the psychologists talk about this. The yin is that calmness, that relaxed calmness. I'm in control. And the yang, the go. Thomas had that yin, that great balance between the yin and the yang. The relaxedness and the aggression. So we talked to you about the controlled aggression. This is just a simple graph, just to show you where Sunette went wrong. In 2012, Sunette did not take control of her emotions during competition. And she's a very natural, aggressive competitor. So it was easy for him to move from a highly motivated state to a highly stressed state, which is where you don't want to be. You want to be highly motivated, but with low stress. And in 2016, it was the same, going into qualification on the bus to qualification and going on the bus to the final. She said to me, "Relax, coach." I thought, are you crazy? She said, "I have this under control. Don't worry, I'm fine. It will be fine, I'm ready." I said to Sunette, "That's great." And then I knew she was ready. First throw, the plan is always in qualification. First throw, qualify. Don't throw 3 throws. First throw, hit the qualification mark, pack your bags, and think about the final. And that's what she did. First throw, qualified. And in the final, she was enjoying the final. She was happy, she was smiling, she was relaxed. But she, for the first time in her life, at a World Championship or at Olympic Games, she took control of her mind. She took control of her emotions. Motivation and inspiration. I'm telling you, if you come to Kvartani, if you come to Finland, you are inspired. I am inspired by just being amongst all these great coaches and athletes. Inspiration is thought. Motivation is action. And that's what we have to get back. We have to get back into action. The greater the inspiration, the stronger the motivation, the better the performance, and the sweeter the victory. Sunette, and this was our 3 things we said before going into competition. When you go into competition, enjoy the moment. Secondly, be in the moment. And thirdly, be the moment. Own the stage. It's your stage. Enjoy it. Be the moment. There are no limits to performance. We have to train smarter. Not necessarily harder. Sometimes doing less is more. We have to train smarter with improved knowledge and creativity. Enjoy the beauty of the javelin throw. There is nothing nicer, a nicer thing to see as a beautiful javelin flying through the air. That's amazing. Celebrate life. Life is very short. Celebrate life. Celebrate your existence as an athlete or as a coach. Now, I've been fortunate to say, and I'm never afraid of that, I have learned from so many people, athletes and coaches. I cannot mention, it's just too many. You know, I think many years back, the late Wolf Pace, the great British coach Wolf Pace, I've learned a lot from Wolf Pace. First time I met him, it was in a hotel, and we are discussing technique. And there's a lot of guests in the smart hotel, and the Wolf Pace is running up and down and showing impulse steps, and the guests are looking and say, "What is, you know?" And that was Wolf Pace, enthusiastic, passionate. Uwe Horn, I can carry on. Tom Petranov, I've learned from so many people. Riku Faliala, where's Riku sitting? Riku Faliala in the biomechanics, Q. All the German coaches, just too many to name, who've influenced my life. Dr. Klaus Bartonitz, Haru, There's just so many coaches. And then maybe one or two other coaches that have done such a lot and meant such a lot in my life. Esa Utrianen. Sorry, Esa. Forgot about you there behind. Sorry, Esa. Esa Utrianen. And Graham. And Mike. Petri Pirunen. Petri, thank you very much for your help in my life. The great Jan Zalesny. Jan and, of course, Barbara Sputakova. Both great friends and their respective coaches. I've learned a lot, and working for many years with Jan, and our publication is almost ready. It will be apparently on Monday, Kari. So, but he's helped a lot. And then I do not know how to thank this man, because words are not enough in this world to thank that great man, Kari Ealainen. He has taught me more. He's taught me not only about the javelin throw, he's taught me almost everything I know about the javelin throw, but he's taught me about life. Kari, thank you for your friendship. It's more than friendship. You're my brother. Kitos. And then lastly, my good friend, Steropitka Maki's coach, Hanu Kangas, and sorry, I forget about the Tapio Korius as well. And Michaela, you too, because Michaela in the 90s, we learned a lot from Michaela, and Michaela has taught me a lot about her javelin throwing and what she does. So this is in short what I'd like to thank you. Thank you for being amongst your great coaches, and kitos.